Добрий день всім.
Hello everyone, I'm Olga Matamanova. Hello at Ukraine Media Center at Ukraine Forum. Today is the Constitution Day of Ukraine, and I congratulate you on this day. We had this main law of the country approved 26 years ago. Unfortunately, we are still having the full-scale invasion, the 125th day of it, and we are very grateful to all those who deliver the truth about this war. Today we are going to have the news from Kremenchuk, from the State Emergency Service. Mr. Alexander Kharunzhy will tell us about the situation that's happening right now. We will learn about the recent events and the search and rescue operations. Later at 2:30 we will have Alexander Matuzianik, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense, and later at 2:30 we will hear from Taras Kremin, the Commissioner for the Protection of the State language. So now let me introduce our first guest, Mr. Leres, a member of parliament, who will tell us about the European energy market and how it's going to change after the introduction of the embargo. Hello, everyone. Congratulations on the Constitution Day. On this special day, we have some good news updates. Actually, today, on the Constitution Day, we see the beginning of exports of energy from Ukraine to Europe. I mean, not the physical deliveries, but the auctions will start today. Auctions among the companies competing for the rights to export. And since July 1st, the first exports will start, 100 megawatts of energy that we are going to sell to Europe. In the forthcoming months, these numbers are going to increase. So this way we are being integrated into the European market. We are going to substitute some of the gas supplies this way, and also help Europe to compensate for the Russian gas, and also save some CO2 footprint. And also, in case we need additional energy supply, we will be able to get it from Europe. We have approved the legislation enabling all this, and thus Ukraine will be able to integrate into the European energy market. The second update I'd like to speak about today is on the market of oil products. In June, we see considerable changes on the market, changes for the better in terms of diversification and new supplies to the Ukrainian market. In June, there are about 600,000 tons of oil products that were delivered to Ukraine. For 100,000 of them are diesel, and since May, we saw about a 50% increase. We see the additional resource, additional scopes coming to Ukraine, additional scopes contracted, and the situation at the gas stations is improving for the end user as well. In western Ukraine, practically every gas station has gasoline available. In Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine, there are waiting lines sometimes still, but the process has started, and hopefully in July we are going to see this situation normalized. Right now, there are limits of 40 or even 20 liters per one car. In July, these limits will be increased or lifted altogether, and still we are calling upon conscious use of oil products. Please use your car only when it is necessary. If you are just traveling somewhere, please make sure that you use some carpooling, that there are multiple people using the same car, because if you are driving alone, it means you're driving with Putin, and you should use resources optimally, at least for the recent months or two, for the situation to fully normalize. We have to be very conscious in our consumption of oil products, and we have to avoid consuming them if possible. And as of today, we can see that Russia's plan to create a large-scale oil products crisis has failed, and it will not come into being here because the deliveries to Ukraine are not only 50% higher than in May, they are not only growing, but they are also growing in numbers of suppliers. And there is no single country delivering to us more than 1/3 of our needs. So we are developing the contacts with different European countries. We are very grateful to Poland and Romania, which also worked hard to make sure that the fuel gets to Ukraine faster. And also the government, specifically Yuria Sviridenko, the first prime minister, have worked together for this result. It is quite visible in western Ukraine, partially in this central part of Ukraine, and hopefully within a month the situation will fully normalize and there will be no difficulties with fueling a car. So this is one more step contributing to the integration of Ukraine's energy market to the European markets. In this case, it's about oil products, so the logistics, the procurement, the availability of the product. All of this is contributing to our established connections with Europe, and we don't even have to think about the previous sources of oil products, which were coming from the east and north. So this way we are being integrated into the European market, and this strategic movement is going to continue also in terms of gas and other energy resources. At the same time, we see that the European Union continues to impose new sanctions on the Russian Federation as the occupier country, and this process will surely continue because Russia clearly shows that it's not a reliable supplier of gas even to Germany, which has been its main partner for many years. So Europe is surely rethinking its approach in terms of minimizing the imports of Russian gas and oil. We saw the effects of the previous package of sanctions, and we can see that at least within G7 if not in the EU. The new solutions are being developed to limit the purchases of Russian oil and gas, and also there are ideas on limiting the price at which such products could be bought from Russia. They can be as much as twice as low as the prices on the market. So this is a response to the actions of the Russian Federation, which keeps attacking the civilian infrastructure and residential buildings. This entails the understanding that countries should seriously limit or even stop the procurement of Russian oil and gas by means of imposing some limitations or introducing additional taxes like 35% tax for the Russian gold in the US, and I do hope that European countries will as well introduce their limitations on this kind of products. So we can see that there are processes happening in the relations with Western partners, both on the part of the Ukraine-EU relations and Russia-EU relations. Our aim is to see Russia fully isolated because it is a de facto terrorist country if we look at the aims of their shellings and missile attacks. What will be the impact of embargo for oil and gas? What will be the impact for the economy of the aggressor country? Surely there will be impact, especially in the long-term run, because right now Russia is still benefiting from high prices for oil and gas, but once new sources are developed, new suppliers, once also the old oil and gas energy use will be substituted with renewables, this will entail lower prices and lower amounts of these commodities that Russia can sell. So we should continue on this way. We need to see Europe making additional steps to limit the Russian exports as well as other countries of the world as well, because we can see that Russia is redirecting its resources to the Asian countries, looking for other markets, and it's very important for us to think not only about Europe, but also the limitations in other countries of the world, and there is still a lot to be done by the diplomats and by the allies of Ukraine, which can also help to persuade other countries not to buy Russian resources. Your questions, dear colleagues? Ukraine Forum. I have two questions for you. Can we already make some assessments of the losses incurred by the oil infrastructure, oil processing plants in Ukraine? As of now, it is possible to make such assessments, but this information is not being disclosed yet. And also, the number is not stable because the shellings and missile attacks continue. We can see that in Kremenchuk, the oil processing plant and the neighborhood TCC are being shelled, and the main purpose of that plant was to produce hot water and central heating for the residential buildings. So the Russians continue shelling, no matter what are the risks of attacking civilian infrastructure. So we should be ready for such shellings to continue, And the work of this oil product infrastructure depends on avoiding keeping too much of the resources in one place. It's more expensive in practice, but it creates additional safety and security for the people. So in Ukraine, we can see that both Kremenchuk and Shchebelinka oil processing plants, they are not working right now, but there are other routes of supply, and as of now it is virtually impossible to destroy them. They are numerous and they are smaller, so we have learned to provide for the market without these oil processing plants, and again this ruins the plans of Putin. The plans to create a crisis here. The losses are huge, and it's always possible to rebuild and restore the enterprise. It's a big question whether we should start restoring them right now. Of course, we should make the analysis now, but once we get the modern, reliable anti aircraft protection, only then we can ensure some defense from attacks, and only then it would make sense to rebuild such enterprises. Right now we can see that every large enterprise is being subject to attack. So right now the solution is diversification, the bigger number of logistic centers, and this way Russia cannot do anything. So the next question is it possible to use mini enterprises for oil processing in Ukraine? Will they be able to produce high quality fuel? Unfortunately, such small enterprises are shelled as well, even in Dnipro region. So practically all of them are not working right now because they are also targets for now. We can think about such solutions, but if we have 5 small enterprises instead of 2 big ones, this will just mean 5 targets instead of 2. So right now it's much better to have logistical connections which enable deliveries of the resources from safer places, making sure that there is no big concentration of oil products in one place, because no matter what is the size of an oil processing enterprise, it creates risks under the current conditions. So right now the oil processing plants don't work, but the deliveries worked quite effectively, and in June there was a 50% increase of deliveries compared with May, and in July the numbers will be even higher. I'm Vadim Vetrov, Corriere della Sera, Italy. I'm very grateful for this extended briefing. I have 2 questions to you. First one, Gazprom, according to its agreements, has to pay for the gas transits. Has the transaction been effected as of now? I don't have this information. This information can be obtained from Naftogaz Ukraine. I believe that because of the existing situation, the payment probably did not happen in full, but of course it's Naftogaz that has the full information, and we can also see their previous statements about their intentions to sue Gazprom, but you should better obtain this information from them. And the second question that the European consumers are concerned about. Each year, Ukraine is getting over $2 billion for the transit of Russian gas to Europe. Are there any risks that this transit can be stopped at any time? And does Ukraine consider the possibility of stopping this transit on its own? We consider here the decisions that are going to be taken together with the European countries. If the European countries decide they do not need Russian gas, then we will stop the transits. Until they decide so, the transit will continue. And of course, it's the issue of interaction with European countries. We want to be predictable. We want to be integrated into the European energy markets on the civilized basis. So we want this decision to be made, the decision to limit the procurements of Russian gas in Europe. And once we get this decision not to use or to limit the consumption of Russian gas, then we will immediately stop the transit as necessary. So the situation is that such decisions should be made together with European countries. Other questions? Thank you so much. This was Andriy, a member of the Ukrainian Parliament. Thank you for the information shared. And at 1:30, we will have information from